All right, I'm doing the same topic I did yesterday. This time I found a great article by Douglas Murray, and I chose to do this mainly because I didn't have a lot of the facts before me, like the names of the authors, and Douglas Murray does an excellent job of covering these, as well as it's a short article, and I might actually get to the end of an article for the first time. So here we go. Yes, Grievance Studies hoax is hilarious, but it's also rather worrying, and I know, of course, where he's going to be going with this, and he's absolutely right. It is very worrying that this is happening, and it's showing something very sinister about the corruption of our institutions. In order for a society to be even vaguely healthy, it has to have healthy institutions, and for institutions to be healthy, they need to be justly respected, and this is exactly it. And the justly is the key part here. Justly respected. It's not respect or deferment just to power for power's sake, but actually because of the competence and responsibility and healthy responsibility that comes with that power. So it's not just that one has power that one should be respected. One should be respected for the responsible way they utilize that power and the competence they display in utilizing that power. One of the most beautiful things to happen in recent years when the conceptual penis as a social construct. This was an academic paper which proposed that the penis vis-a-vis maleness is an incoherent construct. We argued that the conceptual penis is better understood not as an anatomical organ, but as a gender performative, highly fluid social construct. I actually saw the tweets about this, but I didn't actually know the specifics of the details of what inspired it, and it's absolutely brilliant. This gobbledygook was presented in an academic journal, was peer-reviewed and published in Cogent Social Sciences. The only problem was that it was a hoax, a big, beautiful, brilliant hoax carried out by two academics, Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay, who had immersed themselves in the academic BS for their time. In this paper, they successfully plucked an academic scene, which in the humanities at least allows the most insane and utterly untrue claims to be presented as truth, so long as they are suffused in fashionable grievances and coded in a form of academic vocabulary which is an insult to academic inquiry and an offense against language. Yeah, and again, the high use of jargon within these postmodern disciplines is a form of obfuscation. It's a form. It's obscurantism. It's intended to make anything they say possible and give it an air of depth and profundity which it completely lacks. It's, of course, again, it's not knowledge production. It's trying to justify a conclusion that has all been reached, a conclusion that is generally it speaks to the darker parts of human nature, which is this is actually the very serious part of it. It's not that they think that they're being virtuous, but it's actually it's false virtue. It's vice masquerading as virtue. Since the authors of the paper exposed their own spoof, the Cogent Social Science journal has unpublished the article, but the article and background on it can still be read here. I'm not going to click on that, as Ethan Van Sciver says. It might be porn. I don't actually think it's going to be porn, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. But please, if you read the article yourself, check it out. Now, the authors of that hoax, with an addition of the third, Helen Pluckrose, have released a video saying that they have spent part of the last year working on a wider ranging demonstration of the problems in peer-reviewed academic studies. They have been firing off more papers, and a number of them have been accepted. One of these papers, published by an academic journal, claims that dog humping incidents in parks can be taken as evidence of rape culture. It's worth to watch the 1-minute video here. Okay, wow. So there's a 1-minute version. I've seen the 3-minute version of the video. I think this might be the 3-minute version of the video. Yeah, definitely well worth watching. And I think there's like if I recall from yesterday, there are 20 papers published. Excellent work. So partly because it is very funny, but also because it is a deeper point. The Grievance Studies prank is far from frivolous. Yes, this is very important. It exposes the masquerade, right? That anything can be justified as long as it fits their ideological lens. Any ridiculous thing can be justified, and it demonstrates that it's not a knowledge-based discipline. Grievance Studies is an excellent thing because again, it gets to fundamentally what is being voiced, what is behind the postmodern neo-Marxism is resentment, is grievance. They want to tear people down, so they can be elevated. Conversely, they're seeing the social pie as this as a fixed sum game. So there's only so much social representation and social power to go around, and instead of playing the competence game where you actually display your ability of that, they realize they don't have abilities, or they haven't taken the time to develop their abilities. Instead, they try and cheat and tear down the system. And that's what the Grievance Studies is all about. And it is intrinsically Marxist because it gets back to the socialist notion that, what's his name? George Orwell pointed out in Whig and Peer that that there's two reasons for this socialist call for equality. There's the idea of compassion. There's the compassion for the poor and the downtrodden, but there's also resentment of the rich. And people talk about their compassion for the poor and downtrodden. Largely, what a lot of these middle class leftists are being driven by is resentment of the rich. They want to tear down those with more social power or prestige than themselves, and they're creating mechanisms in order for them to do that. And that's what it's all about. It's naked power politics. That's the essence of postmodern neo-Marxism. In order for a society to remain even vaguely healthy, it has to have healthy institutions. Absolutely. And this is the big danger of the postmodern neo-Marxist game, is that when we tear down these institutions, we tear down our complex societies can no longer function. And our society will collapse. Our civilization will collapse if we allow this corruption of our institutions, of our social dialogue to continue. If we regress back to our basic drives as they call for, then our complex society will fall apart. We are part of a highly tuned, imperfect, but highly tuned civilization machine, and if it cannot withstand these levels of corruption that the postmodern neo-Marxists are inculcating into our society. And institutions to be healthy, they need to be justly respected. Not respected because they demand respect or play act at earning respect. What institutions like academic institutions and academic journals become corrupted by ideologues of any political stripe. People can left able to respect among almost nothing and believe almost anything. Yes, and this is again what they're going to. People can be left able to respect almost nothing and believe almost anything. And this is key to why we need to have freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, and these mechanisms that we have to expose these ideas and actually have logic and reason and methodological sound methods, because people are always going to try and shove in contradictions, and this is exactly what they're doing with these disciplines. Is they're sabotaging science, and so people default back to emotion, and we can't. Our emotional brains can't handle the complexity of our society. I keep on coming back to that. But we will fall back into tribalism. We will fall back into the ugliest parts of human nature if this is allowed to continue. Anyone needs only glance at numerous fields of academic study today, gender studies, queer studies, and more, to realize that much of the humanities and nearly all of the social sciences have become pulpits for frauds and megaphones for the radically inadequate. for the radical inadequates. I love that. This is a great way to end it, and it is religious too. It's ideological, but it's also religious, and that's the side point I want to make. And we're going to actually get to the end of the article for once. The first foyer of Boghossian and Lindsay may not have been enough for people to call time on this fraud. The first foyer of Boghossian and Lindsay may not have been enough for people to call time on this fraud. With the addition of Pluckrose, perhaps a wider point will now be heard. Or, to put it another way, perhaps rape culture among dogs will break through where the conceptual penis could not. I'm not going to hold my breath on this one. I mean, it's a beautiful sentiment. Douglas Murray. I think that, well, the cultural shift is going to come more from the Kavanaugh hearings in that than these papers, but it does make a brilliant point. And the problem now is that the institutions have become so corrupted that there is such a high level of vested interest. Like you're really taking on not just these disciplines, these academic disciplines, but you're going to be taking on the administrators of university institutions and those whole infrastructures as well, in order to have the systemic change necessary for these institutions to fix themselves. I honestly think that the corruption is too far gone, and what's going to actually happen is these huge dinosaurs are going to be replaced by smaller, more agile, lean institutions that are going to shift the function, which are gradually through demonstrating their competence going to take over the functions these institutions used to take over, or used to provide. Anyways, great article. Have a great day.